Have you ever noticed that there's a moment, a single moment, when your mind fails you? No matter how hard you try to stay strong, it's in that invisible second that someone manages to slip in, poke at an old wound, trigger a hesitation, steal your clarity. That second is why you've lost arguments you could have won. It's why you've given in when you should have resisted. It's why people weaker than you have made you seem smaller. And the most disturbing thing is that it never happens by chance. There's always someone behind that second, and perhaps that someone is closer than you think. Have you ever felt this? An awkward silence that shouldn't exist, a short phrase that catches you off guard, a look that seems to pierce your rationality like a thin, silent, elegant, yet profoundly lethal blade. This is how vulnerable minds are bent, not with force, but with precision. And that's why you're here, because you feel that on some level, your mind has already been touched, manipulated, violated, and you want to understand why and how to prevent it from happening again. But before I show you how to build an untouchable mind, there's something you need to accept now, something you may have spent your whole life avoiding. People don't try to get to your mind. They try to get to your greatest emotional weakness. And every time you believe you are thinking clearly, perhaps you are only reacting to someone who has learned to press precisely on the most sensitive point of your psyche. Now, before you think this doesn't apply to you, let me tell you the first story. It happened to a brilliant student I once knew. He was disciplined, logical, intelligent, but all it took was for his mother to raise an eyebrow for him to crumble emotionally. All it took was a, "Are you sure about that?" for his conviction to vanish. All it took was a sigh from her for him to change an entire plan that had taken him weeks to structure. He believed he was rational, but he wasn't. He was guided by an invisible trigger that had existed since childhood, the fear of disappointing. And minds with that trigger will never be impenetrable. But here's the detail that almost nobody sees. This student thought his problem was his mother, when in fact the problem was the inner space he never occupied, an empty room inside him where anyone could enter and rearrange his thoughts. And the question you need to answer now, not aloud but within your own darkness, is simple. Which room is yours that's empty? Because if you don't know, someone else already does. I'm not going to give you the answer right now. That would be too easy. And untouchable minds are not born of ease. They are born from friction, pressure, and gradual revelation. And I'll take you there. But first, I need to show you the second step in this descent. Have you ever noticed that some people can unsettle you with half a sentence, while others can yell, kick, attack, and nothing changes inside you? This happens because the human mind doesn't react to intensity, it reacts to precision. That's why so many believe they are strong until they meet someone who knows exactly what they're doing, touch. Someone who has mastered the oldest art of manipulation, emotional engineering. And if you want to build a truly untouchable mind, you first need to understand how it is invaded. There is a silent pattern, so subtle it goes unnoticed, that almost all vulnerable people repeat. They confuse self-control with self-denial. They feign calm when inside a storm is brewing. They retreat to preserve peace and, in the process, abandon their own mental fortress. They believe that letting go is strength, that not confronting is maturity, that not reacting means control. But in reality, this transforms them into the kind of prey that psychological predators love, people who don't protect their own inner territory. And every psychological predator is guided by the same Machiavellian principle. If someone's mind is too open, it already belongs to someone else. But let me tell you something that few people have the courage to admit. Manipulators don't break strong minds. They enter through doors that were already unlocked. That's exactly what happened to Adrian, a brilliant, respected corporate analyst. Always calm, always stable. On the outside, he seemed impossible to shake, but there was something he never confessed to anyone, a silent obsession with approval. He needed to be seen as the most competent, the most reliable, the most indispensable. And it only took one colleague noticing this to take it apart from the inside. This colleague didn't need to shout, threaten, or confront. All he did was plant the right seed of doubt at the exact right moment. Do you really think you're ready for this presentation? I heard that the director prefers a different approach. If it were me, I would review that one more time. 3 sentences, 3 surgical strikes, each one cutting directly at the point where Adrian was most vulnerable. In less than 2 weeks, his confidence evaporated, his performance plummeted, his once solid mind became a house without beams. But here's the detail that changes everything. His colleague never attacked him. Adrian attacked himself. He was the one who left the inner doors open. He was the one who gave the other person a map of his insecurities. He was the one who believed that doubt was a sign of intelligence, when in reality it was a symptom of a defenseless mind. And that's why you need to understand the first principle for building an untouchable mind. You are only vulnerable where you still believe you need to prove something. Notice the depth of this. Where you try to prove something, you create loopholes. Where you try to justify yourself, you give ground. Where you try to please, you give away power. Where you try to convince, you lose the war before you even fight. But there is a second principle, much darker and much more powerful, that almost no one masters, and it will completely change the way you see your own emotions. I'll show you what it is, but not now, not yet. You're not ready for him yet, because before you can confront this revelation, you need to understand what truly makes a mind penetrable, and that's exactly what we're going to open now. There's an uncomfortable truth that nobody likes to admit. The human mind isn't invaded by what it fears, but by what it tries to avoid. Feeling. That's where the deepest weakness arises, the one that even strong people carry in silence. And if you want to build an untouchable mind, you need to face that weakness head-on, even if it hurts. Because what truly breaks someone is not a direct attack, it's subtle infiltration, that quiet feeling that you're losing emotional control without knowing why. It all begins when someone discovers the emotion you're trying to hide from the world. It could be rejection, it could be abandonment, it could be humiliation, it could be invisibility, it could be the age-old feeling of never being enough. Each person carries one, and each one is a gateway. Those who are experts in dark psychology know this perfectly well. You don't invade a mind, you activate a feeling, and when that feeling awakens, the mind opens up on its own. This is how ordinary people become emotional weapons without realizing it. They discover instinctively which emotion disturbs you, and all it takes is for them to touch it, gently, almost unintentionally, for you to lose your balance inside. I'll give you a real example. A woman named Helena worked at a large consulting firm, intelligent, articulate, strategic. But there was something about her that few people noticed, an almost uncontrollable need to appear mature, serene, unchangeable. She hated the idea of appearing emotional. She kept everything bottled up, always. Then a colleague, seemingly friendly, entered the scene and discovered her weak spot without Helena saying a word, and he started using it, not with attacks, but with comments masked as concern. "You seem overwhelmed. Is everything all right? I just think you react too quickly to certain situations. Don't take it personally. You tend to feel things very intensely." 3 sentences, 3 surgical strikes, 3 arrows aimed directly at the one place Helena couldn't bear to look at, the possibility of being seen as too emotional. It didn't take long for her to start doubting her own stability. She questioned her reactions. She revisited conversations. She policed herself. She tried to appear cold, and she wasted some of her power trying to control how she was perceived. The colleague never attacked her. She simply opened the door that Helena had been trying to keep locked. And here's the painful part. Helena wasn't manipulated because she was weak. She was manipulated because she had an emotion she refused to feel. Every penetrable mind works this way. There's always a feeling you don't want to touch, and it is precisely because of this feeling that someone enters. And before you think, "This doesn't happen to me," ask yourself this silent question, the one you've never asked aloud. What is the feeling that I would do anything to avoid showing? This is your breaking point, and you will only have an untouchable mind when you can look directly at that feeling without running away. But hold on, let's not reopen that wound. Now, not yet, because before you confront your emotional vulnerability, there is something more important that needs to be revealed. The shadowy mechanism that manipulators use to identify this weakness in seconds. And that's what will completely change the way you react to the world. I'll show you how they do it, but not in this part. Not yet. You need to absorb this first. And when you're ready, we'll go down a step deeper. Manipulators don't need to know your history. They don't need to live with you for years. They don't need to deeply analyze your personality. Just observing 3 subtle behaviors, 3 almost invisible micro-movements, is enough for them to know exactly where your mind can be opened. And the most disturbing thing is that you reveal this naturally, without realizing it, whenever you're near someone who triggers some deep emotion in you. These 3 behaviors form what I call the map of the gaps. And that's where almost everyone gives up mental ground without realizing it. I'll show you how they work. First, there is micro-freezing, that moment when you freeze for less than a second. Your pupils dilate slightly, your breathing pauses, your body becomes still. This freezing reveals fear, anxiety, uncertainty, or all of them at once. Anyone who observes this carefully immediately discovers what is affecting you. Perhaps it's criticism, perhaps it's rejection, perhaps it's pressure, but the door opens there at the exact moment your mind hesitates. Next comes the micro-justification. It's when you try to explain something that didn't need explaining. It's because I just wanted to. I did this because anyone who justifies themselves without being pressed is trying to protect a vulnerable point, usually the core insecurity of their identity, and manipulators sniff this out with predatory precision. When you over-explain yourself, you give away your inner keys. And then comes the third behavior, the emotional. Micro-deviation, that smile that's too small, the quick downward glance, the subtle change in posture, the imperceptible drop in tone of voice. That's when you try to hide that something has affected you. This disguise is the biggest indication that someone has touched your sensitive spot, because you're only trying to hide what truly exposes you. These 3 movements together are like psychological coordinates. They reveal your weaknesses before you even realize you have them. And those who master dark psychology use this as a compass. You think you're dealing with a normal situation, but in reality, someone is already mapping your mind from the inside. And to prove it, let me tell you the third story. It involves a man named Samuel, known for being unflappable, serene, untouchable. Nothing shook him, or so everyone believed, until the day he met a new manager, a calculating, silent man with a gaze that seemed to dissect intentions effortlessly. In less than 5 minutes, he discovered Samuel's breaking point. Do you know how? Samuel experienced a micro-freeze when the manager mentioned negative feedback. Then he tried to quickly justify himself regarding something that hadn't even been asked. And finally, he looked away for a second, just one, when the manager praised someone else. 3 signs, 3 openings, 3 direct access points. The manager realized Samuel had an extreme vulnerability linked to a feeling of worthlessness, and he began to operate on it. Whenever he wanted something, he would subtly slip in a comment about someone else receiving recognition. Whenever he needed obedience, he would insinuate that Samuel was losing ground. Whenever he wanted control, he would talk about the possibility of adjustments within the team. Samuel collapsed in 3 weeks, not because the manager was powerful, especially because Samuel was emotionally transparent. He let the enemy see what should never have been visible, the point where your mind breaks. And here's the truth that will stay with you until the end of this video. You don't become untouchable by eliminating your emotions. You become untouchable by eliminating others' access to your emotions. And that's exactly what we're going to start building now. But first, there is something even deeper and darker that you need to understand. This is the real reason why some people have power over you, even when they shouldn't. And this reason has nothing to do with strength. And it all has to do with perception. I'll show you. But then, now you need to breathe and absorb what you've discovered so far. The power someone has over you never comes from what that person says, does, or threatens. True power is born from internal perception that you have of her. That's why ordinary people can unsettle you, while others, more aggressive, more chaotic, more explosive, don't awaken anything in you. The difference is not in them. The difference lies in the psychological space you allow. And it is precisely here that most minds become vulnerable, when they believe that someone has access to their value. If you believe that someone can take something away from you, approval, respect, love, validation, security, that person automatically gains permission to manipulate you, even if they never try, even if they never realize it. It's like giving someone the combination to your inner safe and expecting them to never open it. And it is at this point that the most dangerous psychological mechanism of all emerges, the transfer of emotional authority. You transfer authority every time, seeks approval before deciding, wait for feedback to feel secure, changes their posture when someone important enters, fears disappointing someone who shouldn't even have that power. It allows another person's mood to define yours. These micro-dependencies are like cracks in the foundation of a fortress, and manipulators see these cracks as invitations. But here comes the dark and liberating part. Nobody controls you. You just haven't realized where you handed control over yet. And to understand this with absolute clarity, you need to know a psychological pattern that almost no one sees: the cycle of emotional submission. It always starts the same way, with something small, an opinion, a glance, a reaction, and you adjust your behavior to avoid conflict, rejection, embarrassment, or judgment. He seems innocent, but this adjustment is the beginning of the collapse, because each micro-adjustment creates a psychological thread, an almost invisible thread, and before you know it, you're already tied down by dozens of them. This is how people lose their autonomy without realizing it. First, they give in a little, then they give in a little more, then they take shape, then they fall silent, then they break apart. And in the end, they think that's personality, but it isn't. It's conditioning. And to prove it, I'm going to show you something you've never noticed, something that happens every day in any environment, even if you think you're too strong to allow it. When someone puts emotional pressure on you, you don't react to the situation. You react to emotional memory that this situation awakens. And this memory often doesn't even belong to the present. It belongs to you, but from another time, when I was younger, more vulnerable, less aware. That's why you feel an overwhelming force in simple situations, because you're not fighting against the person. He is fighting against the psychological echo of the past. And now, I need to reveal something to you. One of the most uncomfortable truths of dark psychology. Most of your reactions are not your own. They are conditioned reflexes, emotional remnants, automatic mechanisms created long before you knew what strength was. And as long as you don't rewrite those reflexes, anyone with emotional timing can manipulate you. But breathe, because this is not where the transformation happens. The transformation begins when you understand a Machiavellian principle so powerful that if you integrate it, no one, absolutely no one, will be able to throw you off balance again. This principle will become the foundation of your untouchable mind, and it contradicts everything you believed about emotional strength. I'll tell you what it is, but not now, not yet. First, you need to understand what truly keeps you bound by the perceptions of others. Only then will we be ready to break this cycle forever. There is a Machiavellian principle so powerful and so often ignored that it immediately separates ordinary minds from untouchable ones. It's simple, direct, almost brutal. A mind that fears being interpreted will never be free. A mind that doesn't fear being misunderstood becomes impossible to control. Think deeply about this. Most of your reactions, tensions, and insecurities stem from a single fear, the fear of what another person might think of you. This fear is the root of all psychological weaknesses. It makes you hesitate. It makes you justify yourself. It makes you soften your presence. It makes you walk on eggshells. It makes you act with self-censorship. And all self-censorship is premature submission. The manipulator doesn't need to pressure you when you set limits for yourself. There's no need to attack you when you're the one surrendering your freedom. It doesn't need to dominate you when you yourself extinguish your own power to avoid judgment. This is the most perverse mechanism of modern manipulation. No one needs to control you. You already control yourself to please others. But here's the dark and liberating twist. The manipulator only has power as long as you fear appearing to be something you don't want to appear to be. Fear of appearing arrogant, fear of appearing weak, fear of looking wrong, fear of appearing emotional, fear of appearing insensitive, fear of appearing selfish, fear of appearing too tough or too vulnerable. These fears keep you chained, because while you're trying to manage perceptions, you remain emotionally accessible. An untouchable mind is born when you abandon that. When you accept that it will be interpreted in ways that are beyond your control. When you understand that it doesn't really matter. When you understand that your strength lies not in being understood, but in being unwavering. And here comes the second principle that reorganizes everything within you. When you stop explaining, you become unpredictable. When you stop reacting, you become impenetrable. When you stop requesting validation, you become uncontrollable. Manipulators hate people who don't justify themselves. They hate minds that don't try to defend themselves. They hate it when you don't react to the emotional stimulus that should break you, because it is at this moment that they discover they do not have access to their psychological center. But here's the point that most people never realize. To reach this state, you need to abandon an emotional addiction that silently dominates almost everyone. An addiction so deep that it controls your decisions, your fears, your posture, your words. The addiction of wanting to be seen as a good person. You adjust your energy so you don't seem cold. Soften your words so you don't sound harsh. Reduce your presence so as not to appear dominant. He apologizes for things that aren't even his fault. Smile when you don't want to smile. Accept when you don't want to. He remains silent when he should be speaking, and he does all this because he fears losing emotional approval. But here's what nobody told you. It is precisely this fear that prevents your mind from becoming untouchable. An untouchable mind doesn't try to please. She doesn't try to convince. She doesn't try to be seen as correct. She doesn't diminish herself to maintain harmony. She is not seeking a positive interpretation. She is not afraid of judgment. She is not afraid to disappoint. She exists with the elegant coldness of someone who has already understood that psychological freedom is only born when you abandon the need to be understood. And to bring you to that state, I need to reveal to you now a mental mechanism that will act like a blade, a behavioral technique directly inspired by Machiavelli and used by the most impenetrable individuals in the world. This technique is so powerful that once you master it, any attempt at manipulation will cease immediately, because no one can control someone whose mind doesn't respond to usual stimuli. But I'm not going to reveal the technique yet, not now, because first, I need to show you what really happens inside you when you try to prove who you are. And this revelation will completely change the way you see yourself. There is a silent phenomenon that destroys the mental strength of millions of people every day. A phenomenon so subtle, so automatic, so deeply ingrained that you probably never realized it was doing it. His name is compulsive self-definition. It's the urge to prove who you are. the urge to correct perceptions, the urge to avoid being misunderstood, the urge to clarify intentions, the urge to justify actions. And here's the truth that almost no one dares to admit. Every time you try to prove who you are, you prove exactly the opposite. When trying to prove that he is strong, he reveals a fear of appearing weak. When he tries to prove that he is calm, he reveals a fear of appearing unstable. When trying to prove that he is intelligent, he reveals a fear of appearing inadequate. When trying to prove that he is right, he reveals a fear of appearing inadequate. Every explanation is a silent request for validation, and each request for validation gives away a piece of your power. Manipulators know this instinctively. They force you to explain yourself, not to understand you, but to observe you. They put pressure on you, not to judge you, but to map you out. They make you uncomfortable, not to hurt you, but to analyze how you try to relieve the tension, because it is in this behavior, in their desperate attempt to maintain the image they feel they need to maintain, that they find their vulnerability. And I'm going to show you now the specific psychological mechanism that opens your mind to being invaded. When you try to protect your identity, you expose your deepest insecurity. And handlers can smell this like predators smell blood. But here's the darkest and most liberating detail you'll hear today. The only reason someone can manipulate you is because there's a version of you that still fears being taken apart. This version is its weakness, and she needs to die. But don't be alarmed by that word. I'm not saying to eliminate your sensitivity, your humanity, your emotion. I'm saying to eliminate the conditioned reflex that makes you defend an image instead of defending your mind. There is a huge difference between emotional force and emotional theatrics. And what you practice, almost always, is theater. You try to control how you are perceived. You try to appear stable. You try to appear rational. You try to appear confident. You try to appear unshakable. But none of that generates real power. It only generates effort. And effort is the first thing a manipulator exploits. Now, pay attention to what I'm about to reveal to you. An untouchable mind doesn't try to appear strong. The untouchable mind simply does not react. And that's the essence, no reaction. And for this to happen, there is an extremely powerful Machiavellian technique, so often used by strategists, negotiators, leaders, and impenetrable individuals, that becomes a true psychological barrier, an emotional marble wall. This technique is called the Elegant Dissociation. It's simple, but devastating. You learn to separate the situation from your identity. When someone pressures you, you observe, but you don't absorb it. When someone tries to provoke, you notice, but you don't respond. When someone tries to destabilize you, you feel it, but you don't move. When someone tries to manipulate you, you see it, but you don't give them permission. It's like watching the attack in slow motion with the elegance of someone viewing the game from above. And here comes the crucial point. Elegant dissociation destroys the manipulator's emotional expectation. He expects you to justify it. You don't justify it. He expects you to react. You don't react. He expects you to defend yourself. You don't defend yourself. He expects you to present yourself as a good person. You remain neutral, cold, aware, unperturbed. Right now, control collapses. Emotional engineering fails. Manipulation loses its basis, because nothing scares a manipulator more than someone who doesn't need to prove anything. But we're not finished yet. There is still a stage above, a mental state so powerful that it transforms you not only into someone impenetrable, but also dangerous to anyone who tries to throw you off balance. And that state will be the next step. Have you ever noticed that there are people who are not only untouchable, but who also make others uncomfortable without doing absolutely anything? People whose mere presence changes the atmosphere of the room, whose posture alters the dynamic, whose silent energy causes manipulators to back down before they even try. This is no coincidence. That's not charisma. This is not conscious intimidation. That's its psychological aura, and there is a higher level of it called unbreakable aura. An unbreakable aura isn't about appearing strong, it's about being unreachable emotionally. When you possess it, nobody knows where to attack you, nobody knows where to touch you, no one knows where their mind opens up loopholes. You become an uncharted psychological territory, and manipulators hate unfamiliar territory. But to build that aura, there's an internal change you need to make, a drastic change that cuts all the invisible threads connecting you to the opinions of others. It begins with a cold, almost cruel, yet liberating premise. Stop trying to be emotionally predictable. When you are predictable, you are controllable. When you are controllable, you are easily manipulated. When you are easily manipulated, you are vulnerable. Now, look at the reverse. When you become emotionally unpredictable, nobody knows which button to press. Nobody knows which emotion to trigger. No one knows where your weakness lies. And this is where you begin to build your unbreakable aura. From this point on, you need to introduce 3 psychological behaviors that reprogram how the world reacts to you. 3 behaviors that destroy others' ability to read your weaknesses. The first one is strategic silence. Don't reply immediately. Don't explain immediately. Don't react immediately. Don't show anything right away. This delay of 2 to 4 seconds changes the game, because manipulation depends on rhythm. If you break the rhythm, you control the game. The second one is neutral gaze. Not hostile, not friendly, neutral. It's a gaze that doesn't tell a story, doesn't convey vulnerability, doesn't deliver emotion. It's the look that says it. I see you, but you see nothing in me. Manipulators hate that look, because it destroys the emotional reading they need to operate. And the third behavior is the minimum expression. Reduce your gestures, reduce eyebrows, reduce facial reactions. A mind that is barely active on the outside is almost impossible to access on the inside. And now, here's the dark part, the part that transforms you from someone merely protected into someone who dominates the psychological chessboard. When you remove your emotional predictability, manipulators begin to feel insecure around you. They question his methods, they lose their timing, they project their own weaknesses, they become emotionally unstable, they make mistakes, they expose themselves, and it is at this exact moment that you have the opportunity to completely turn the game around. But before I show you the ultimate psychological counterattack, the most elegant, coldest, and most devastating move an untouchable mind can make, I need to warn you about something. There is a fatal mistake that almost everyone makes when they start to get stronger. A mistake that reopens loopholes, a mistake that destroys all the new strength gained. And if you don't know how to avoid it, everything you've built so far can crumble in seconds. I'll show you what that mistake is, and then when you're ready, I'll teach you the final technique. The technique that transforms you from prey into a psychological predator. The technique that makes manipulators avoid you. The technique that creates the truly untouchable mind. But first, there is a fatal mistake, a silent mistake, masked as strength, wrapped in pride, that destroys the aura of anyone who begins to become psychologically solid. And this mistake appears precisely at the moment you begin to realize you are stronger. It's the mistake off to test that changed. That's the poison. It's a trap. It's the fall. Because when you try to show that you're strong now, you end up reacting again. When he tries to demonstrate that he's in control, you end up explaining again. When you try to get someone to notice your progress, you're essentially asking for validation again. And the instant he does that, the entire internal structure shakes. Because you revert to the behavior that made you vulnerable, the need to be perceived in a certain way. And handlers can sense this like animals sense fear. Consider the paradox. You can spend weeks cultivating posture, silence, neutrality, unpredictability, but all it takes is one attempt to prove that it's not the same anymore. And your mind opens up like a house with wide open doors. This is why so many people experience peaks of strength and collapses of fragility. They don't consolidate the transformation. They perform the transformation. They want to be seen, and every desire to be seen is a form of exposure. But now I need to reveal something even deeper to you. Manipulators don't attack those who are strong. They attack those who are trying to appear strong. Why? Because those who try to appear strong still have something to defend, and everything you stand for can be used against you. But those who don't try to prove anything, it leaves no gaps. And now we come to the most important point of this section. There is a brutal difference between internal change and change performed. Changing from within means transforming the core. Performing change is merely putting makeup on the surface. And that's where the greatest test of the untouchable mind emerges. You should be cold, even when you want to appear warm. You must remain silent, even when you want to prove you are right. You must remain unperturbed, even when something is ravaging you from within. Because true strength is born from self-control. But now I'm going to reveal something to you that few people see. There is a precise moment, and manipulators know this moment, when you become more vulnerable than ever. It's not when you're weak. It's not when you're insecure. It's not when you're emotionally exposed. That's when you've just become stronger. Try. The most dangerous phase is the ascent phase, because his ego is reborn, inflated, but still unstable. Her confidence is returning, but it's not yet solidified. His gaze changes, but his emotions still resemble the old pattern. The manipulators attack during this period. They're testing you, they challenge you, they provoke you. They are trying to rekindle the old version, because if you react the way you used to, they win. They regain access, they regain control, they are regaining ground. But if you don't react, if you don't take the bait, if you don't justify yourself, if you don't try to explain your new stance, then something extraordinary happens. The manipulator definitively loses the emotional connection to you. And when someone loses the emotional connection, loses power. It is at this point that his unbreakable aura begins to solidify. Not when you appear strong, but when you refuse to prove that you are. And it's only after you master that you are ready to learn the final technique, the psychological counterattack, the game changer, the silent blade, a technique so precise, so cold, so elegantly destructive that it disarms any manipulator, even the most experienced. And this technique will transform you from a target into a threat, from vulnerable to indomitable, from emotional victim to psychological architect. Are you ready? Because when I show you, there will be no turning back. The psychological counterattack is not about shouting. It's not about confrontation. It's not about exposing. It's not about humiliating. It's not about playing the manipulator's game. The psychological counterattack is something much more elegant, much colder, much more Machiavellian. It's about making the manipulator confront their own emptiness. This technique is called reflection of inner silence. And it works like this. When someone tries to manipulate, pressure, provoke, poison, or destabilize you, the manipulator expects one of three things: that you react emotionally, that you explain yourself, that you defend yourself. These three answers give him access to his inner world. It's like opening the windows of your mind. The reflection of inner silence does exactly the opposite. You eliminate those three answers at once. The handler throws out the bait, and you don't react. The face doesn't change. Breathing doesn't change. The look in his eyes doesn't change. The tone doesn't change. It offers no resistance. It offers no explanation. It offers no excitement. You create a void, a psychological silence so dense that the manipulator finds himself, for the first time, without a map, without access, without a route, without an entrance. And then slowly his mind begins to collapse, because manipulators operate by reading emotions. They don't attack reality, they attack signs. But when you remove the signs, they get lost. And that is the Machiavellian principle behind the technique. When the enemy doesn't know where to attack, it destroys itself trying to find a target. And here comes the most powerful part of the counterattack. After 3 or 4 failed attempts to destabilize you, the manipulator changes their behavior. It goes into retraction. He recalibrates, he tries a different approach, and when nothing else works, he starts avoiding you. Try. Manipulators avoid those who cannot read, because it's impossible to control someone who doesn't show emotional signals. It's impossible to intimidate someone who isn't afraid of judgment. It's impossible to manipulate someone who doesn't react to stimuli. And when you master this technique, something extraordinary happens. You create what we call an inverted psychological field. Before, you were the one being analyzed. Now you are the observer. Before, you were the vulnerable one. Now you are the silent one. Before, you were the target. Now you are the mirror. And the manipulator, when looking at you, sees himself, their fears, their insecurities, their weaknesses, his impulses, your inner chaos. The silence you create forces the manipulator to confront their own mind, and that is the greatest punishment for anyone who tries to control others, facing what they have always run from. And now we come to the most important conclusion of this video. Building an untouchable mind isn't about becoming hard. It's not about becoming cold. It's not about becoming indifferent. It's about becoming unfathomable. When nobody can read you, no one can control you. When nobody knows what threatens you, no one can threaten you. When nobody knows where you feel, no one can hurt you. And when you learn to control your signals, his pauses, his silences, his micro-gestures, his breathing, you create a psychological territory that no one can cross. But now comes the final blow, the plot twist that changes everything. A truly untouchable mind is not one that no one can invade. It's the one that nobody even tries to invade, because its mere presence makes it clear that the cost is far too high. And before you think this ends here, it doesn't end, because there is an even higher level beyond the untouchable mind, a level that few people in the world achieve, a mental state where you not only protect yourself, but he begins to see, with surgical precision, to see the emotional weaknesses of anyone around you. This is the next stage, the next evolution, the next video. And when you find that out, the game will never be the same again.